Let's alter some plain envelopes into a more coastal theme. Hello and welcome to the Treasured Page. I'm Melanie and this is our quiet crafting space. So this is a tutorial of sorts because it will teach you I have arrived at my watery themed envelopes that are going to come and live in my journal for next month. So here I've got some envelopes. These are plain ones. These are the old gummed ones that nobody wants anymore. And then this is the sort of thing that you get through the post for free. So I thought I'd show you that as well so that we can all get hold of a junk envelope to alter. And then I've also got some fabric here because I like, when I'm dyeing, I like to be able to mop up and then be able to use the cloth for things afterwards. So I'll just show you, this was how I got this. And then that has given me this watery effect, which can be a background onto a page, onto ephemera. It's just a lovely supply that we're creating for free, just using scrap fabrics that you may have. So I've got a couple of cotton ones. This is a muslin cotton, very lightweight, and this is something that can be picked up quite readily in the cookery and baking department along with this as well. So this is cheesecloth. This is muslin. Both of these can be used for culinary uses. So this is for cheese and curd making, and this could be used for straining yogurt. So you can pick those up fairly inexpensively and you can get quite a lot. So I've just cut off a bit of that. We're going to be using that. This was some fabric from curtain lining. And then this is a lining fabric. This is a man-made polyester. And this is the sort of thing that you'd expect to line a skirt. So I've got this in a white colour, and that is what I used here to create this, a scrap remnant. So I've got this, so I'm going to take a length of this today and we will have a look at what we get. Okay, so I've got a length of that. That was just the bit with the mark on it, so we'll use that because that's definitely scrap. And then I've also got this yarn as well, which is a cotton. So that's that. Then I've got some paper die cuts here, which I'm going to see if I can alter as well. And there's just a couple of little embellishment pieces here, some lace. So we've got that, and then some nice lace. And then this was sent to me in a previous swap. So I thought I'd take a bit of that and just see if I could alter that. So I'll just show you this cheesecloth. It's very lightweight, open weave like a gauze. So you could have a look and see if you've got any bandages that you could pull. And maybe that could be something that you could dye. So this is the cheesecloth that I've got here, Cook's Choice Professional. And it is an open weave 100% cotton. Now if you're using cotton fabrics, they're going to be the ones that take up the dye quite readily, but we are having a play around with the polyesters as well. Now here I've got some tea, which I'm just adding. This is just cold black tea. Now to make my tea, I had hot water and English breakfast tea. That's black tea. You could use coffee as well. Now off to the side, I've got some packaging paper here, just brown packaging paper. I should be laying everything out onto the paper to dry, and that will in turn maybe stain the paper off to the side as well. And we will be able to use that. So everywhere you can, just try and see if you can create more of a mark on things just by doing something very straightforward. So we're here to dye for envelopes, but the byproduct will be much, much more because we're also going to be cleaning up, and as we're cleaning up, we're going to be using the things that we clean up with. So it's about working smarter, not harder. And so here we are, we're just dunking the envelope into the tea solution, and I'm making sure that the tea goes inside the envelope. I really want to coat the inside as well. Okay, so we've got tea in there. We just wobble it around to make sure that it's really gone into all the cracks. And then as this dries, it gives you a lovely aging effect down the bottom. As the moisture escapes, it creates more of a stain. So I'm going to put that one off to the side and we'll just do a few more. So as we go, try and open it up, get the liquid tea inside and just dunk them in. So it's as simple as that. It works slightly better if you've got a hot tea, but we're just demonstrating here that you can save your tea. So if you've been dyeing papers and you've got some left over, you can add it to a jar. I always add it with a little bit of white vinegar. That just keeps any mold spores away. And there we go, we've just done another one. So I've got a little mat down here. And then what I want these to do, I just want these to soak in, dry off enough. I'm going to be working with them wet, so that's quite important, because when we're putting on a colour, and we should be using ink, but you could use watercolour paints or watered down acrylic paint, anything with a stain, but something water soluble. Done. We put that one off to the side, and then we'll just do this one, which is the free ones that you can get through the door, just this free post envelopes. So we just get that coated as best we can. This portion can often tear off, they're very flimsy, but that's that. And then also I make sure that this bit stays up so it doesn't gum itself down, because that is a sticky one. Now I've got to clear up, so in order to clear up, I'm just using the scrap fabrics that I've got here. So wherever I've managed to splash it, I'm now going to be putting, so we'll soak that up into the tea, and then we'll put that down there, and then we'll allow these just to mop up. Now the mopping up action actually works in your favour, because you can get a different variation of colour and depth of stain, so it's sort of quite good to just mop up here and there, because it is that action that gives you this fun effect. So I've got some that's gone over there, so we'll just do that, and then we can bring it here and just do this scrunch as if we are just wiping up, mopping up, okay? And it is that action that gives you some really nice effects. Okay, now we've got things tea stained. I'm just going to add to the very last bits of dye my white cut out pieces. These were just cut out of greeting cards. So that's pretty good. I think we've used all of the tea there, very little left there, and then anything left in there I'm just mopping up with the last little drops of that tea, so everything has now been covered. Okay, so now I want to colour these. I want a blue ink and I want a green ink. That is going to be the tones and the colours that you're seeing in this. You can see here that we've got this effect. So we're just looking for blue or green ink from any brand. They just need to be water soluble. Here I'm using the Distress range inks, because those are the ones that I use here on the channel. And if I didn't have those, I'll be using my watercolour paints. And if I didn't have that, I'd be searching out blue food colouring from the kitchen. All right, so just something that's blue. Right. So now I've got my damp stained envelope and my embellishment pieces. I'm just going to put that there, and we're going to grab an ink and put some down on this mat. And then I just want a shot of water. So we're just watering everything down, just doing a watery effect. So maybe let's practice over here first on one of our little embellishment die cut pieces. So we just dunk that in there and leave that. That's quite nice. And the same on this one. See how we like the colour. That's quite nice, quite watery. So there we go, I've already got it on my hand. What I'm doing here is now just pushing my damp envelope and doing that, and then just picking it up so that it runs. There we go, you can see. Got the daylight on it, so hopefully you can see that. So I'm putting it at the base of the envelope and then allowing it to run up. So that's how you achieve that sort of a look, although this will be different because this is a slightly different ink. I'm going to get the next one and we can just put it into the ink like that and allow it to run. So the envelopes need to be wet in order for this technique to work. And you will start to get a slight green effect if you've got the brown from the tea. That will give you that green. So that's why you only really need blue. I've got green here because I'm going to be doing my leaves. So we only need blue ink for the envelope to create this look, because the tea works to change it. You can see, I don't know if you can see, but perhaps you can see that that is not as blue as that, and that's because it's reacted with the tea a bit more. This one is a slightly different ink. I think it's a different ink. I forget which one I used. That's why it just doesn't matter. This one is Mermaid Lagoon. I think I did use this one, did I? Looks the same. See, it doesn't matter. They're so subtle. Now let's put this one on here. So any blue ink, I just think it's a really good idea to have blue ink in your kit. A blue ink, a brown ink, a black ink and a green ink. You really can do so much if you're just starting out. Try and get a black permanent ink for stamping. I always find that that's great. Okay, we'll just let that run down. And we'll put that one in there, seeing as it's already got splattered. We'll put them all in. And so I've done my envelopes. I'll just see if I can get that one. That's a bit more. This one needs a little bit more, so I'll just put it all along the bottom and then we let that run. Okay, they're fine, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of this Mariner colour here. This is Uncharted Mariner and it is a really strong colour. So we'll just have a look, because we've got it, what we can achieve here. So I'll put it on this one, I think. This one's coming out a bit darker anyway, so I'll put that down the bottom there. We'll just have an additional colour running up there, just a darker colour. Just allow that to run. And that's how we do it. A little bit of extra dark ink, and if you didn't have the dark ink, then you could just go again with more layers of the same ink than that you started with. So just to prove that point, this is the one I started with. This time I will put just a little bit of water, and then this one we're just going to concentrate it onto the bottom, and then we'll allow that to run up, although this one has dried a bit more. Just dipping the very edge in and allowing it to run. So it is just one ink. You would just need one blue ink and you can achieve this look. I think I had a strong tea for this and it was left in the tea a little bit longer, but nevertheless it's really effective. And I've just got to bring this one in, and we'll just really just get some ink on it, I think. And then just put the bottom, dip the bottom bit in, and then let that run down like that. And then bring back anything that you've got that you want to have some blue on, and then using this scrunching cleanup method, we're just going to dab some of it into the ink like that, and then just sort of roll it around. And the same with this, but roll it around. So dip it in and then roll it, so you're getting it in different areas, and it's also transferring over to other parts of the fabric so that it's varying the stain like that, and then just roll it around, clearing it up, you know, just mopping up and rolling and mopping and rolling. That's what we're doing here. So that's that. Now this one was cracked pistachio. I may have chosen a very pale ink. This might be a little bit too pale for what I want, but I'll add this one in anyway. And we can see they're all getting a bit fragile because they're so soggy now. But I don't mind if they break because that's sort of quite interesting. So we'll just add in that. I'm not going to do all of them. And we'll just mop that up. Now this one is olive, crushed olive. Of that in there. Okay. Okay, now because these are quite wet, I am just going to give them a good squeeze like that. We can see we've got moisture coming out. So now I'm just going to roll those around just to get a general stain rather than a mottled effect. That's all just going to melt in nicely if it has been moved around. I'm now going to lay it all out on the paper, leave it to dry while I'll have a little bit of lunch, and then I am going to piece together and decorate my envelopes. Okay, I am back and everything is dry, and look at the array of these lovely pastel colours we've got to work with. These are the envelopes in all their watery goodness, looking rather lovely and blue and watery and summery. Nice bright ones these. So we can embellish that and we'll get rid of all the modern day writing on it by our decoration. So those were the envelopes, very pleased with those. Then these are all the little pieces, so they're coming out looking really nice. Lots of colour definition there, and they're nice and pale, so we can potentially put them on our envelopes. And you wouldn't need to do a great deal. You could just have these pieces that come and hop on. Now, because everything is in the same colourway, we can use this throughout the journal and it would have continuity, and it has taken really no time at all. So here we have the fabrics. We've got the cheesecloth, we've got the muslin, all different colours, subtle, but very nice to have these as a resource, and they have been aged through the process of the scrunching, the dyeing, and just having the distress look on them. Now, you may think that you preferred it before I started the dyeing, certainly when it comes to things like lace, and I would agree with you. We've gone from stark bright white to this vintage tone, but it gives a different look. So you can just use a scrap and have a play, and then you'll find that you've got options of different things, but it's the same. It's just another colour to work with in your creations. So this was the satin style fabric, the lining to a dress. So there's some really nice materials to have a play with now, something that we wouldn't have had without having a go. All right, let's get the glue and let's just add that down here over the top of the bit that I don't want to see. And I've got this scrap which I think might just fit in there enough, so that could be good. Okay, so we've put a bit of glue there. Let's just bring this back over. Stick this down here. So it's going to mute it, it's not going to take it away. But that's fine. We'll just build up some layers. I'm then going to think about some of the fabrics that I've got here. Cut a bit there. So we're just going with a diagonal like that, and then putting down the fabric. Crunch texture to remind us of the sea. I think sometimes they're quite nice to have them in a journal where they are this way up, and so we could look to embellish things that way, and then maybe have something trailing out the bottom of the journal as well. So that's a good background. Then on this side I've got this here which I'm not too interested in, so what I might do is pull this open if I can. just open this up. Okay, so for this one, my glue's gone a bit melty because it's very hot in the craft room today. But what I'm doing is I'm putting down my glue stick all the way over it, and I'm going to line it with this paper here. This is vintage book page from an old notebook. I'm just going to create some writing space here, so just covering that with the glue. Lay this down here, orientate everything this way. So I'm just having a play with the ideas as they present themselves. And now I'm just cutting this out using the envelope as a guideline. The embellishment. Just get that last bit there. Okay, and now we have this on the inside, and then this is going to come down. Okay, I've got this washi tape which I think I can have down here. Love this washi tape, it's nearly finished. I've been using it for quite a while. Let's come to the end. Get this bit off here. Straight edge there, so just to be in keeping with this organic edging that we've got on the front, I'm just pulling that up like that. That's nice. Let's burnish that bit on, and I think with a deckled edge ruler I'm just going to tear that off like that to give a torn, tattered edge for the beach look. Everything's a little damp with glue. Okay, I'm going round with a blue edge using Salty Ocean, but I'm also using it on an ink dauber that's probably got all sorts on there, so it's not necessarily a true colour, but it's good enough. And we're just going round having a nice beach look to this one. Bring that over, and then I'll just add some ink along the folded in area, and then that just gives a nice edge when it's all folded up. We might want to reduce that bit, but I'm not sure at the moment. So that can go in the journal and flip out like this. We've got this as a lovely writing space or decorative area, perfect for a collage or a picture. And then that is the inside pieces there, and I'll just do the same on this edge as well. So that's come together quite quickly, and just go round here. And this could have been a brown as well, or it could be a combination of the two. It depends how vintage you want to take things, or how distressed, but I think that that's a good base. That's a good base to then add more decoration, more embellishment. You can build that up as a really cool mixed media piece, and then some sort of focal point could go there. So that's quite fun. I'll just take that off a little bit. Just reduce that a little bit. Okay, now if I want to introduce a little bit more colour, I can just blend my ink over the top and give this watery sweep if I want to do that. Just highlighting those raised areas. That's a really fun little background. Now with this one, all I did was I've overcome a problem by just covering up what was there that I didn't want to see, and I've done that by using materials that I'd put in front of myself. So I've put these things in front of me to work with today, and that is what's happened. So whatever I put in front of me, I tend to just grab and use and start having a look at what it all is, and then I can build up little collages, little scenes, just using the scraps that I have to hand. And that is quite a fun little process. When you allow yourself to get into it, you sort of start adding all sorts of things. So we've got these nice things to play with. So I'm just using the ink of the day, which is blue, and we're going to go round giving this a nice little bordered edge, make it ornament, tie it together. You can also come in and do a circular one, so we can capture it by doing that. Okay, so we're going to be working on this one, and I've also got this tissue paper here. I like this idea, so I'm just going to tear a bit off there and see if I can use that. I think I like this idea here. That's nice. So I'm going to put some glue along this side here and glue that down. I even like to wrap that around. That's quite nice. Just wrap that around where the glue is, and then I can pull it away so it sticks wherever that glue was. That's quite fun. And then we just trim around. Okay. All right, so these are my 3 background pieces. I've got this one that's orientating in this way. So when it's in the journal, it would be like this. You could have it hooked over a page, so that would be the page that you would then flip this up and you would find this, and then you can open it out for writing space. And I think what I'll do is I'll just put a little bit of ink down the crease there. So I'm just inking around, giving it a nice little framework. Just some nice detail there. Okay, then I've got this one. I think I better orientate one that way just to show something different, and then this one can go that way. So, and then we've got the larger one as well. So now I've got my pieces, which since they've dried, they've gone very, very pale, and I'm just thinking that it might be really nice to add some embossing glaze onto these and allow them to pop and, you know, really add some detail here for a little arty application. All right, I'm wanting to make an envelope because the theme of this journal is all surrounding a story from Charlotte's letter. This was a 1935 letter that was in my collection, and along with other letters, I've combined it into one letter. You can find it on Ko-fi if you would like to download it. There's some images there of the letter. You could print them out, or you can hear me reading it on the previous video, and I'll leave the link for that below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an envelope using this template, which is the envelope that I've already previously dyed. I'm just holding it down here, and with a pen that has the ink that can be removed with heat, so if I put my heat gun on it, it'll disappear. I'm just going to draw around, and you'll be able to see it because it's red ink and the whole thing looks a bit odd or a bit worrying, but I can assure you that this ink disappears with the heat tool if you haven't seen me do this before. So I'm just drawing round for my template on fabric. Okay, so we're doing this. We're bringing in our paper crafting skills to our fabric crafting skills, and if you have neither of those skills, then all you're doing is following and drawing a line, but you would need to cut inside your line if you weren't using a fancy pen, and this one is Friction Ball. It's a pilot pen called Friction, and on the end there, when you rub the ink, it disappears. So if we put a bit of ink there on our letter, in theory it will disappear, and that's the friction, but it's also marked it, so that's why we use the heat tool. Okay, the next thing I'm doing, a little bit odd, but a couple of dabs of glue onto my silicone mat here. I'm just bringing this back over with our pattern here of the envelope and smoothing that down as best I can, just so that it's stuck down and not moving, because it's such a slippy, slidey, floaty fabric that I'm just tethering it to place. What I want to do now is I want to decorate it with some stamping, and I want to work out that this is going to be my envelope, so when everything folds together as an envelope should, we would be having this as our embellishment. So okay, now I'm just drawing in some guidelines here. This will give me an idea of where I need to stay within. So I need to stay within my little box marker here. So you can see I've got the grid here to work in, and what I want to do is I want to put some stamping on. I'm going to be using an archival ink which will be permanent at the back, so if that gets wet it won't move. And what I want to do is add in a texture to the background. So I'm going to use a background script stamp, and I'm really excited because I've been sent some silicone stamps. Now these come from Claire at Purple Poppy, and look what she sent me. So she has developed some stamps, and very excitingly they are vintage adverts, and I haven't really seen anything like this before. So these could have been snippets from newspapers, well they were snippets from newspapers of bygone years, so they were actual real advertisements with the old text and how it would have appeared on a newspaper. So it would be really fun to recreate a newspaper background here with some of these adverts, and here you can see that she's developed her own stamp. So I'm very pleased to have a play with these today, so thank you Claire for sending them. It's Purple Poppy Paper Crafts. You can do a screenshot there if you're interested, but these are from 1893 to 1926, lovely old vintage, and you can find Claire at her Instagram on Purple Poppy Paper. She's also on Ko-fi, and there you can see the address there for her Ko-fi, and you can get hold of some of these stamps on the screen. More details, and I'll leave the links for all of this below if you're interested in a set of these. Now, really great to tell you is that they are lovely and thick. These are excellent quality stamps, so I'm really excited. I think the best thing for me to do here is find a stamping block. So I'm going to get my stamping block here, and I'm going to choose one of these ones. I really love this one up here for today. I think it fits perfectly. These are lovely thick stamps. Oh my goodness, you can feel that these are really good quality. They're nice and sticky onto my acrylic block here. So we're going to be having a look at this one, and this says about dyeing and cleaning, and I thought that was really good because we were just doing some dyeing and then we were cleaning because we use this cloth as the cleaning cloth. So I'm going to, I don't know if I want a true impression or just a little detail, but I definitely don't want it dark. So if you're thinking that this isn't coming out dark, please know that it is a pale grey ink, and that I just want this texture at the background. I think I'll just have it here. I just love this because you can line it up and see where you want it. So that's gone down. Oh, that's really good. That's gone down nice and pale. I'm going to add this one down here onto my fabric. That's great. So lovely pale background detail there. Just see if that one will print off. Lovely. Now this is the envelope flap that will fold down, so I've put the stamp upside down, so when it comes right way round we should be able to see some of the words just as a little detail in the background. They are fabulous, Claire. Thank you so much. I'm really pleased you sent those to me. I'm going to play with those a lot because that's a lovely background detail there. It's come out really nice in that pale grey, and we'll put them through their paces in another project I'm sure, and I'll use the darker ink. So we've had a little trial of those. They're absolutely beautiful. What fun. I love that Turner word there. What I want to do now is embellish a bit further. Okay, now I've got my background in and that looks very reminiscent of newspaper. I'm going to bring in my black soot archival ink, and I'm also bringing in some stamps, and I want to have the idea of fish and chips on this paper. So I've got a fish stamp there. He looks rather good. This comes from the Sea Life collection. We might have him as well, but we're definitely having this one, and he's going to go there. So let's see if we can get this one all inked up. Okay, so now I've got my fish all inked up. He is in a darker black ink. So we're creating the sense of British fish and chips on the seafront here. Oh my goodness, look at that. That just works so nicely with the adverts in the background. Okay, really cool. So if you'd like to get hold of these adverts, you would have so much fun with lots of different backgrounds. It look lovely with flowers as well, because you used to have flowers wrapped up in newspaper. And of course, newspaper just looks great to decorate on bags and pages. So a stamp set like that just creates so many different possibilities. I'm going to add this fish here. Okay, this is in the black ink. Oh, they are perfect. Now, I've also got this seaweed sort of coral. It could be coral, it could be seaweed. And I've got a green, so I thought that might be quite a nice little different look. If I don't like it, I'll go over it again with black. But I thought that this might just give a little touch of colour. Oh, okay. That's quite dark, isn't it? But that's great. Yikes. I've just dropped the ink on it. Oh no. Well, not to worry, because this is a vintagey piece, and I'm just now putting a little bit of ink onto this stamp here. So this is black ink now this time. I just want to have it along here. Just want that name. That's great. And yeah, maybe now, because I've just done that, let's just get that wholesale word there. We'll just go over it with some residual ink left over here and there. So that's fine, just as a smudging effect. All right, what I want to do is carry on. Oh, that was great fun. So what I want to do now is I'm going to line my fabric with this paper that is writing paper. So we're going to just add down the glue. It doesn't need to be completely covered. I might even manage to get this under the sewing machine if I feel it's necessary, but it's such a sheer fabric that I think we can get away with it just being glued down with stick glue. Now this Yoo-hoo glue stick does seem to work very well with fabric, so I'm just putting that all the way over there. All right, I am now laying down, I hope this is right, laying down a piece of paper over the top, lining this fabric with writing space. Let's turn it over. This has now stabilized everything. We could have also ironed it on to freezer paper as well. Now you can see the detail here has come out nice and bold and strong with that dark black soot ink. So that's archival ink, and then I've used the grey and that's muted it to the background, so it's made the fish come off and be a feature. So that is great. You can have two looks to a script stamp. I'm now cutting out my envelope on my guideline. This is a really fun idea. Lots of great ideas for the envelopes here today. And just using our stamps, what we may have. So I'll just take out the notch there. This is just lining fabric. You may have an old skirt with some lining fabric in it that you don't want anymore. You could be doing something like this with it. So let's just take that off, because we can use these scrap fabrics for pieces now that we know that it works really lovely for stamping. And that was a nice square piece, so we can use that. And one here as well, so we'll just take that away. Nice scrap of paper there. And this is what we're ending up with. All right, everyone, so moment of truth, we're just going to line it up on my guidelines that I've already given myself here, treating it like a piece of paper now. I'm just putting in some creases, just lining it up on that red line that I've marked out for myself, just using the template of an existing envelope. Then we'll put in our final line here. All right, this is looking so fun. Look how you could write on an angle. That could be really, really interesting as a piece. That's it, perfect. And then I might want to just make a bit more of this bit over here. Oh, that's so fun. Great, lovely. I really, really love that. That's been so much fun to do. So this is what it's looking like, guys. So on the inside, we've got the lined paper and we can now fold it all in. This is how it's looking. I haven't taken away the red line yet with my heat tool, so I'll just show you that that's possible. But there we have it, and it's fabric. You can also see the lined paper through it, which I think adds to an extra detail. And then we've got the fish on the front. So I had another go and I've made a second one just while I was having a little break. And there they are. They look really great, and you can have stamping on the inside as well. And I've just gone round with the ink. I've gone round with a darker colour here, so you can just see how that happened. That just went round like that. And then what I was thinking is that I actually really like the little red detail coming in. I think that it reminds me of a fishing line or those sort of colours that you see when you're fishing. So I was thinking maybe I could introduce this coral colour thread, which I've been digging around, and I finally found that in my stash. I'm thinking maybe I could do some stitching around the outside, considering that is fabric. So there they are. I may even darken that down a little bit more with some brown ink to age it, but it doesn't need it. And they just fold in, fold up and fold down, and now I've put the seaweed across there, but that could have been coral as well, so I could have used a red, but I think it was nice to keep it in the green tones for this one. So I'm really pleased with those. So they were really fun. I'm definitely keeping one of those for my journal. And then the other thing that I wanted to have a go at was some more stamping. I've got this one I could show you. Now this is a torn off piece of fabric from the one we dyed earlier on. And on here you can see I've done my background stamping and then a focal image at the front. So I've gone ahead and I've repeated the process with this fabric. Now this is a heavier weight lining fabric for a curtain, so it took a bit longer to do, so I thought instead of letting you see all of that, it's exactly the same thing. So I have got these pieces now. This one is a lobster, and here we've got two seahorses using that background, and it's really effective because it just looks like some old newspaper, but it's on rag cloth. It's really fun. So that was just using these stamps again and doing exactly the same as we did here. And then over the top I've used the Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous Sea Life, and that is CMS 304. It's an old set, so I'm not sure, but you may find that you've got other stamps in your collection which are seasidey, so shells would look perfect for this, but I'm just using what I have. So I have seahorses, and then I just wondered if seahorses would look nice, like 3 seahorses along an envelope, so I thought I may just do that on this one. Okay, that really stands out, so I'm just going to go round, give it a nice inked edge. Okay, so that is a really fun envelope as it is, but I don't want to stop there. I would like the colour underneath my black permanent ink to bleed out. Okay, now I want to cover up my outside seahorses. I'm going to take a little spray of water and just saturate him just so we get a little bleed through of that ink from underneath. And then this just needs to sit and dry. Now you can see the ink is moving out, moving around, but the image is not being lost because we've got that black waterproof layer on top. And I've actually done these in the same way, but I don't think I'm brave enough to see if they're going to work. So I thought I'd try it on here first. And then we can sort of just get the ink to run off. And that will create quite a fun look, I'm thinking. So we'll just get that ink to move about. So that was that little idea for you. I think what I'm going to do now is just assemble what I've got. So I think I can use my stick glue on this one. I might want something a bit stronger. We could use Fabri-Tac, but we should be all right with the stick glue. So I'm just going to put that down there in the middle. Okay, down the bottom I'm just adding a little bit of Fabri-Tac, and then I'm going to put in the lace that we dyed earlier. So, okay, that's looking fun, and then I just finish it off with a little more ink to frame it all in. So when we've been dyeing our envelopes, there's no difference between that and a sheet of paper. So you can do a similar effect to a sheet of paper to give yourself a really lovely beachy, watery scene. You know, look at this. This is just lovely beachy vibe here. So this could be a page in your journal. You would then have something similar to this, and if we imagine that this is one of the pages, we could just hook it over the page like that, and then you've got this as a flip, and from here you could develop this further, you could decorate it, and then you can add a letter or you could add a journaling card, and that's just a really nice little extra that you could tip into any journal. And you can change the look of it, you can change the colour of it, and of course the stamping on it can fit any theme journal that you want, but the technique here is the same. So that is an easy flip out. So if we have this as a journal page, it could appear like that in the journal, look really lovely. And so you would have your writing space there, and then you've got hidden extra in a pocket. And then when you turn it over, you would have this on the other side, which you can embellish, and then that becomes a tuck. You could add extra things, you could add a cluster, and you've got yourself a little tuck. Or you could then pin on something else and have this as the next intriguing piece in your journal. So when you open this out, maybe you've stuck it like that, and maybe you figured something out there. And then you could also flip them out, and then you could line this with an image. So you could have a nice postcard that you attach here, whether you want to just pin it on with a paper clip so that you can write on that as a journaling card, or you could turn this into a pocket. So we could glue that down and have a thumb hole here. You've got a nice inspirational picture there that you could have a look at, and it's all secretly hidden. So these are just some really nice ideas. Okay, and finally we're going to work on this one. So this is the envelope that started life as junk mail, and that just came through as a free envelope to post back. Okay, so let's have a play. So we've already got this watery texture here, and I thought I haven't used this, so we better use this. This is the cheesecloth, and then I want to use the embellished die cuts that I've got here, and I'm going to bring in one of these seahorses. So we just want to see how far that needs to come down here. I'm just going to cut a bit of that. I think if I pull it, yes, it does. It rips, so we've got plenty for another time. And then I'm just going to allow this to spill out here. Maybe I want it to come up here and fill that space up there. So do you see, you can just build up some layers, and they're incredibly thin. So I'll just roughly put a little bit of glue there, just so that that keeps it in place. And then I'm going to glue down my seahorse, so I will go all the way around. Okay, and then I'm going to put my seahorse here on this lovely background. There we go, so that's like that, and then I'm going to embellish it with my flowers up the side. All looking a little bit samey, and I do think I would benefit if I added some embosses. Alright, so I'm covering all these pieces in the Versamark embossing ink pad, and I think that this is lovely because you can take your time over. You don't have to rush because the ink stays on there, and it's like a sticky substance, like a glycerine or something. Okay, so I just tip my powder over the top and cover everything. Okay, so now I'm covering everything in the embossing powder. I can just turn it over and make sure that I've got it all coated, and that's great. So we're just lying that back down there, just make sure it's on there. Little shake. Get it all covered. Okay, get them covered. Now I'm just going to put my embossing powder back in the pot. And then I'm going again. This time I'm using a different one. It's slightly more turquoise blue. This one's called Salvage Patina, and I'm just repeating the process here. This one is a rust colour, so I thought this could be quite fun. Okay, I'm going to lay a piece of paper. Hopefully they won't go blasting all around the room, but I will just try and hold them in place. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've stuck down the embellished pieces which have been embossed, and what I want to do now is just add last minute detail. I've got some stamps. I found an old vintage stamp, so I'm going to add that in because it's got a little postage mark just off on the corner there, so if I tuck that under there, it's quite fun to peep and have a look at the stamp. And then up here I'll do another one. And this is a lovely flower stamp here, a lovely nature stamp, so I'll have that one. I think we'll have that at the top there. The colours all work nicely. That's a South African stamp, a vintage one. And it's just really pretty. It's fun and it's whimsical, and it gives a sense of the movement of the sea. It's just a playtime, a bit of fun, so I quite enjoyed doing that one. That's great. So that would flip out onto something that could be pinned, paper clipped, or glued. That could be glued down, become a flip in a journal, or it could be tucked in, or there could be a belly band, and that could be a nice piece that goes into the journal. So I'm quite pleased with that one. So we've got some really interesting ideas emerging here today, and they're all quite playful. So we've got the lobster, we've got the fish, we've got the seahorse. I've got this one now. I did then go and make a boo-boo here, and I put something wet over the top of it by mistake. So I now haven't got my 3 seahorses all looking beautiful. I might just cover that one up now because we've got the seahorse there and he's looking rather majestic over on this lovely piece. So I'm thinking let's just cover this bit up. Have it that way. So that's okay, so we can't see that now. And then I have got some embellishment pieces here, and I love this one. This has come out really pretty. That picks up similar blue tones, and that just looks really elegant there. So I'd actually like to do some more of these. This is just off of the pack of some packaging. All right, I'm going to put this down here, and this is going to come and add a little detail somewhere within this watery theme that we've got. So lots of little ideas there. Okay, I'm just going to blast this to get rid of the red line. And here are the envelopes. They are whimsical, they are fun, and the video has been jam-packed with lots of information for you to take away. These videos are here for a very long time. I have no intention of removing them, so you can like the video and come back and watch them again if you'd like to replicate any of the techniques that you've seen here today. And leave a comment below if you'd like me to embellish or go over anything in future videos, anything that you would like to see again. But I think that that brings you lots to take away, and I decided not to do the stitching on this one. I did run a little iron press over it. They've gone really flat, and they just have a lovely feel to them. It's really fun to play around with fabric and be able to bring them into the ephemera that we can make to add to our journals. I think it's really important to remember to have fun when you are playing with your papers and your supplies. To bring in some light-hearted crafts to your journal just can lift your mood. And with that in mind, if you've made it through to the end, here is my little octopus entry for today. I just thought I couldn't resist, and I've put him onto this landscape journaling envelope, and here is the beautiful stamping on the back from Purple Poppy and her beautiful stamps that she sent me. I'm really pleased with how it's all come out. Now for this effect on here, I have used a water-based ink. I used Uncharted Mariner. I stamped out the image first in that ink. Same again with the seahorses there, and then when I wanted to make sure that the image wasn't going to move, I went over the top with the black soot ink, and I was able to do that by using the stamping platform. So I stamped in one ink first and then over the top with the archival waterproof, and then once I'd waterproofed the image, I knew that I could wet that down and have the ink disperse. So it's a really fun technique to have a play with, and you can create something really fun. So I just thought that that was quite nice, particularly if you're watching with children. And just a disclaimer here that all of my content is made for over 13 years, but I know that some of you do have grandchildren that you like to have some ideas with, so you can do some fun stamping just by using your water-based ink. So I thought that was just a fun one to play with this summer. Okay guys, so I've had so much fun. Thank you so much for watching. Do please like and subscribe. Leave me a little comment. I read them all and I will reply. So thank you very much, and beyond everything else, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye bye now.